everyone. Welcome to Bowtie Security Guy After Dark, episode 18. I actually remembered the number. So I was pretty, I was like, I'm gonna do it this time. I'm gonna do it. uh, my guest today is Jeff Lilford. Did I pronounce it right? I should have probably asked you beforehand. How do you pronounce your last name?
Liford.
Liford, perfect. Um, I wanted to have you come on for a while. You and I have kind of shot the S for a bit back and forth and share similar kind of growth stories, and both of us have done a lot of incident response. And I wanted to kind of talk about like your career path and then also really about the incident response life so we can kind of teach these kids what they're going to be going into if they decide to
Sure.
chase that path. So let's start with how did you get into technology?
I had this very complicated flirting relationship with technology going all the way back to, Tandy 1000. Um, I probably could have gone to college and done the traditional thing, and I elected not to do that. I spit in the face of good ideas and planning and authority, and I go figure it out the hard way. And I mean,
I'm
that
very similar.
for better or worse, that worked out okay. My path in technology, my mom put a BIOS password on our Tandy to keep me out of the machine, and I found a book at the library that explained how motherboards worked, and I found a little battery that if you took it off, it took the password off. And my life has been a successive series of these little kind of interactions ever since then. I couldn't help but giggle. You had a guest a couple of episodes ago talking about the punters on AOL.
Oh
That's how
yeah.
I got my first foray into programming. My dad brought me home a copy of Visual Basic, and I learned how to scrape instant message windows and do abusive things with oversized HTML coding and all kinds of things. But like that was my first little foray into security stuff. And I got to a point in high school where I was like, I really enjoy this, and I followed some advice that probably I shouldn't have, but it was if you really enjoy something and you make it your job, it can take it away from you. And the,
I
the
can agree.
reverse is really true. If you really enjoy something and you make it your job, you feel like you work less. And I wish that's a lesson I wish I'd learned a long time ago,
Yep,
because it
yep.
pushed me away from technology and it pushed me. I mean, I joined the army. I spent 10, 12 years in uniform. I was an intel guy. I was computer adjacent, and I was still finding excuses to do power user computer things along the way. But it ended up being my into IT during a time when, IT was getting kind of competitive, circa,
Yeah,
2009, 2010. I transitioned into IT and I went back and did IT in the organization that I used to be a soldier in.
yeah.
So I had to come in, um, and that allowed me to go in and do the things I started going to night school. I didn't take the free ride to college. I paid for it with the GI Bill and some cash, and I've very roundabout three, four, five different majors before I finally settled on technology. And at some point, I was just like, I've been flirting with this long enough. We're just going to do it. And so I jumped in with both feet and never looked back.
That for me is pretty much like I've always had that same thing with technology. I loved it, but I also like didn't want it to be my job at first. I didn't really want to live and breathe technology because I liked kind of playing and tinkering. But then I kind of learned early on, thankfully, that like, hey, if I love what I do, like I really am not working. But
Yeah.
there's a double-edged sword to that, my friend, which we will talk about, Jeff.
Yeah, we will. We
Um,
will.
so you did that. You were in the army for a while. You were in intelligence and geopolitical stuff, which sounds super cool, and none of it you can talk about, so I'm not going to bother asking. So, um, when you left the army, you went into help desk. What was that like? What was that experience like just doing kind of what I call modem jockey stuff where you're
I
just like
was not
bouncing switch?
I was not prepared. So I went to I mean on a personal level. I went to a degree program that famously graduated people into Knox because it was a Cisco heavy
Yeah.
program. And I didn't want that. Like I understood networking. My first love in IT is networking. I get it, but I wanted more customer interaction. I wanted more systems interaction. I wanted a bigger piece of the bigger pie, so to speak. And so I went to a help desk, and I was not ready for the level at which organizations are not prepared to manage and mature their people.
Yeah.
It was soul crushing to work at a help desk and ask to be evaluated and be told, "Hey, you're doing a great job." Okay, yeah, but like, how do I do more and how do I get better and how do I and like no advice to be found whatsoever.
Yep.
And I did not stay in that role very long as a result of it because I was willing to go out and find my own feedback. And I had a buddy who worked for the feds, and this was kind of my roundabout way to get back into my old office, but he worked for the feds at Department of Interior, and he's like, "Hey, give me a resume. We got a position open." So I put in my resume, and the recruiter wouldn't even talk to me, but this guy was willing to stand on a desk for me and say, "At least do an interview." And once I did the interview, I killed it, and they wanted me. But it was I could just get into the interview because I only had 6 months of help desk experience. I hadn't finished my degree yet. They just didn't even want to talk to me, and I was fortunate to have an in, and that's even as going as far back as 2009, 2010, that's been a thing in this
Yep.
industry. It sucks for people trying to break in is you really do kind of know somebody. And so I try to be that somebody for as many people as I possibly can. A small handful of people who I was the guy who stood on a desk for them because I remembered when somebody did that for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, the whole reason I do mentoring is because somebody stood on a desk for me, right? I was a kid with a high school education. I didn't have any certs under my name. I was just like, hey, I like to hack stuff. Can I come hack stuff?
Sure.
And they were looking to have me lead the largest, the IoT initiative for security at Disney and to build out this mobile strategy. And she believed in me. Like, and she was just like, she was able to fight for me. I remember like it took forever for me to get hired and I was getting super antsy. Disney has a really long process to hire people in general, but I was getting really antsy, but it turned out I was so horrifically paid. She was also fighting HR to kind of get me paid appropriately for the role I
Right.
was going into. Because when I first got into technology, I was very much taken advantage of because I was a poor kid. Like when I got a job at the help desk, I made just as much money as I could. It was like 40 grand. And then I
Yep.
got into, I was running 9 different teams and I was working myself to death and I was putting in all these crazy hours because like you said, when you love what you do, you don't work, but
But
you
you
end up
do.
working yourself to death. Like you don't, I think people like us and people who are similar to us who kind of chase that dopamine rush of technology and the challenge and all that stuff, um, we're drug addicts for lack of anything better, and we need constant kind of stimulation to feel engaged, to feel like we're doing something, to feel like we're worth something. And I realized later in my career, unfortunately, after I'd already burned myself to the ground, um, that how unhealthy and how just damaging that was to my psyche when I'm putting in 50, 60, 80 hours a week and like I'm not sleeping. I'm just hammering caffeine like it's going out of style. I'm eating incredibly crappy because I forget to eat all the time because my damn ADHD. I'm just like hyper focused on a task and I'm like, oh shit, it's been 2 days. I haven't eaten, like that'll happen. Have you experienced similar kind of throughout your career, just kind of getting really into it and just kind of maybe overdoing it?
Yes. So about a year ago now, I'd been feeling bad for a while, but I'm prone to these fits of like, let's do 18, 20, 30-hour days because there's work to do and it needs doing and I can do it and I'm into it and like, let's go. And you do that enough times, you consume enough caffeine and enough junk food, you really get to a kind of ugly place. And about a year ago, I finally went to the doctor and broke down. I was like, listen, I realize I have terrible habits, but like run the tests, find out what's wrong because I feel horrible. I can't sleep. Like the only thing I know how to do is put my foot on the gas at work. and
Yeah.
everything else falls down. And like I'll work that 20-hour day, and then for 4 hours I'll be dead to the world. The next day I feel like shit, we're gonna get up, do it again. And I will
Yep.
do it again. And it, people around me noticed and they were like, hey, listen, you don't seem all that healthy. And I had the litany of like liver disease, kidney disease. I'll let you figure out how those happen.
Yeah.
Diabetes, the whole everything. And so
Yeah.
I had to make a commitment. I had to make as strong a commitment to myself as I made to my work to
That
make
was the
myself healthy.
hardest thing for me. That was the
Yeah.
to because I'm basically a recovering drug addict. Like when we talked when I was unemployed, like you were telling me about your job and all the stuff you were doing and kind of what you're doing, and I was like, I was all in. I was like, oh man, like I was like, you're getting me super excited. You're like, hey man, we got a position I think you'd be perfect for. Let's talk. And then I was like, I just kind of I was like, okay, I got to step back because that's the
Sure.
path. That's the path I don't want to go down again because I know that person. That
Yep.
person is going to work himself to death and kill himself for the job and do. I remember a comment my boss made, and I don't even think he realized how soul crushing it was. Um, but he goes, "Oh, hey, we're going to be helping Rob out because I guess we finally figured out his breaking point is 3 years doing it by himself."
Yeah. I'm really fortunate in my current position.
It
Um,
sounds like it's amazing. Yeah,
the
they're
leadership
looking out
has
for you.
been, I mean, I went to our co-founder and told him, I was like, listen, I'm not healthy, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And there were several people, like we're in startup mode. So like there's a lot of people who are
Yeah.
in this, and it's not that's in and of itself is not bad. But he
No.
was very cognizant of, you're not the only person saying this to me, and there's probably something systemic that we should change. And so
Yeah.
like he bought everybody Garmin's, he put everybody on a health plan.
Oh
Like
my God,
we're
that's
all looking
amazing.
out for each other. Like I walk or run 4 to 6 miles a day now. If I don't get my steps, people from work will call me and be like, "Hey, I noticed you didn't get your steps today. What are you working on? How do I get you away from your desk so you can go walk?"
That's awesome. So you
And
basically
it,
got a battle buddy, right? I mean,
yes, and it made a
that.
huge difference. Like it's now, I mean, I've lost 70 pounds in the last year.
Woo!
Uh,
Congrats, man.
like I'm fully remitted from diabetes. My liver and kidneys are back to normal.
Man,
Like,
that's awesome. It
it
it's
was a long
crazy.
journey, but it
It's
takes a village.
amazing how much you will sacrifice for this job without realizing it. And I've talked to people in the past, and what I think people don't understand is this role of cyber is not like like a 9 to 5. Like even if your schedule is 9 to 5, that means nothing sometimes. And if you're
Right.
in any of the operational support roles, or if you're in incident response, I mean, I've done 40, 50 hour, consistently nonstop, right? Like dealing with an incident or a threat. Um, and that's common, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
that's part of the gig. And you kind of know it when you're signing up, but I think what happens is when you're chasing that dopamine and when you're chasing kind of the always on, kind of like you said, foot on the gas mentality, is that you really don't stop to breathe enough to realize or to do like a pulse check on yourself,
Right.
right? You've stepped over yourself 10 times dead on the floor and you're just like, hey man, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. And you just kind of step right
Right.
over. Why are you being such a punk? You just step right over that dead corpse that you left behind and you're functioning at like 30%, but your 30% is still better than most people's 100. So it's nobody realizes it. And it
Yeah.
really takes people who are paying really close attention to kind of catch on to that. I'm very lucky that I kind of went through those struggles early in my career. So now that I'm leading a team of technicians, I can be like, hey, take a step back, right? Like you need to take a
Right.
breather. I had a guy who joined my team. Um, he'd never taken a vacation. Like I looked at his vacation, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, it never really worked out. And I was like, no, I'll see you in a month.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and he's like,
So
but I just joined your team. And I was like, that's cool. I'll see you in a month. Because it's insane. You get so focused on just the job and you don't think of anything else. And not to mention your health, but also your relationships, your family, your friends, like
sure.
all of those get sacrificed.
Sure. Well, so it's funny. It's in our organization now. So like we spend 30 minutes of our interview process convincing people why they don't want to work for us. This is the kind of stuff we talk about. It's like, especially, so we're a little bit weird too, because like, unlike an incident response role where like you're part of a company's internal incident, we are like, in some ways, we're firefighters, right? We go from fire to
Yeah.
fire to fire, and that's all we do is go from fire to fire. So
Yep.
everything is high stakes, everything is high stress, everything is right now. And we work a 30-14. So we work 30 straight days on, and then we take 14 days off.
Yeah.
It's partly because it's easier to manage scheduling, it's easier to manage continuity inside of an engagement when you don't have to schedule weekend shift changes and things like that. But
Yep.
also the because the type of work that we do, you have to have a big block of time off to effectively decompress. Because you can't, like, even if you're working 5 days a week, 10, 12, 15 hours a day, the weekend is not enough. You just
No.
barely got back to something resembling a normal sleep schedule and you're ready to
Yep.
start it all over again on Monday. And that just doesn't work.
No, no. When you told me your schedule, that was one of the most enticing things because it just makes sense.
Right.
It's I think that's the only real way to do it, honestly, because that'll give you the that time to decompress. Because like you said, the weekend is not enough.
Yeah.
Like you're just running on fumes, and then it just you never get that time to kind of catch up. So I think it's brilliant. And the business model that you have of kind of going in and helping companies when things go south, I think is also incredibly cool because not everyone can have a full-time incident response team.
Right.
So jumping from fire to fire has to be really interesting. So
Even people who do have a full-time incident response team,
sometimes you need help.
our
Yeah.
niche, yeah, our niche is enterprise ransomware. And
Yeah.
even organizations that have large, mature security apparatuses are not prepared for the level of destruction that happens
Oh
in,
my
an
goodness.
enterprise ransomware case. A lot of this
Yep.
stuff is the original environment was built via VAR and they're not here anymore, and you can't get them on short notice to even rebuild stuff. You may or may not have backups. You probably don't. But if you do, there's nowhere to put them. Like, you don't have the storage to put them on, your compute environment's torn down. So like we actually I explain to people like we're cybersecurity, but we're really kind of cyber adjacent because we're not cyber in the traditional cyber rules. We're not doing
Yeah.
threat hunting. We're not doing SOC analysis type stuff. We're doing, bare bones infrastructure building because
Yeah.
this stuff has to get rebuilt as a consequence of what happened.
It's wild the damage that a ransomware attack can cause. I've worked several cases, which, as you and I both know, we can never talk about to anyone. Um, but it's what I think people don't understand is that there's multiple facets of a ransomware attack that are kind of interesting. The first being how much effort it takes to restore a large enterprise environment.
Right,
The second being the human power that is required to get it back to that state. And then the third part being ensuring that it doesn't happen again. Because I've seen
right.
situations where
And
I
in
was
that
brought in
order,
to help. Yeah, yeah. I was brought in to assist. And they didn't do anything I told them. And then they got
right,
popped again.
right,
Um, and it's very disheartening to see because you know the lives and you know how many people are impacted. People don't really when they see a ransomware attack on the news, it's just like, oh, okay, it's become so common, it's almost white noise, right?
right,
Um, you're talking people's livelihood that's impacted. You're talking sometimes you can't even cut paychecks.
right. These are
I
mass
mean,
casualty events. Right.
huge, huge impact. Looking at just some of the stuff you see in the news every time I remember being that soldier on the ground, so to speak, and knowing what they're dealing with. So a lot of times I'll message my buddies during a major breach and I'll go, "Can I buy you dinner? Can I get you something?"
Right. Yes.
Like, yeah, because you just know, like they probably have forgotten to eat because their heads down in logs. Like I can't tell you how many times my daughters have come up to me and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm looking at just a wall of logs, and it's like,
Right. And
"Oh,
that's just
yeah,
that's just the investigation side, right?
right."
So like we do a thing for a lot of organizations, they're not prepared to have any kind, like they may or may not have an incident response plan, but I
Right.
guarantee you it did not include an enterprise ransomware event, if even if they
Right.
did it. And
Yeah.
they're not prepared to do the restore. They're not even really prepared to support the investigation. Let's say they get help. They call a CrowdStrike, they call a Palo, they call a whoever, right? Um, those defers are just going to tell, like, here's the things that we would like you to give us, and
Right.
we'll look through them and figure out what happened, and good luck, right? And so we go fully hands-on, like, oh, you got a hypervisor that you're locked out of and you need logs from it. Let me break into that real quick and get those logs out of that. Like it's offensive in some ways, right?
Yeah.
And we do a lot of that, and it's that skill set that organizations are staffed to keep the lights on. They're not, it's like if you own a Ferrari, you don't learn how to rebuild the transmission. I mean, maybe you do, but most people don't. They take it to the
Right.
dealer to do that, right?
Agreed. Yep.
Except the dealer doesn't have time for you today. So we're the dealer that comes to you. Our founder likes to use the analogy like your enterprise IT system is a Ferrari and somebody just disassembled it in your driveway. Like, yeah, you're not dumb. You could probably figure out how to put that together. But for the next month that it takes or longer, you don't have a
Oh,
Ferrari.
this is where things like lack of process, lack of documentation, and lack of clear defined anything
Yes.
destroys you. And
Yes.
every team I've joined, I am equally hated and loved later. Because I'm like, hey, we have no documentation. We're building all of it. Like nobody that we're not just operating on cardinal knowledge indefinitely. That's just not how I operate. Like if you're gone, I don't want to have to call you on vacation to figure this out. Right?
Right.
So like documenting and clearly defining those processes is probably the number one thing I've seen where I've walked into a situation where someone's had a breach and I was assisting. There's just no documented process at all. It's like, how do
Right.
we even stand this back up? Oh, well, this one dude, he knows how to build it. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, where's he at? Oh, he left the company a year ago.
Right. Or he died. That happened. Right.
Yeah,
That guy
yeah.
died 3 years ago.
Yeah. It's
You know,
and we never really tried to figure it out. So that's where I want people to really understand this job or career that you're chasing. It sounds really cool on paper, but it's really boring. Like if you don't love this job, it is the worst job ever because a lot of it is log, a lot of it is deep thought and analysis, a lot of it is understanding networking, the complexity of systems, and then much of it is documentation and writing.
right.
Um, and if you hate those things in school, you're going to get a lot of experience, or you're going to be like those people that Jeff and I go in to work with, who hated documenting, didn't document, and when they need those documents, they don't
And now they got
exist,
to be
right?
saved.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
No, that's interesting. So you
And
you
I'll be honest,
pivoted. Yeah, you
I
go
don't,
ahead.
I don't so much like I think the problem is really systemic though. Like
I
it's
agree.
not our people who don't want to document because those
No.
people exist, right? It's
Yeah.
the organizations and businesses are not prepared. Like when's the last time? Because ransomware can hit anybody, and this
Oh
is a
yeah.
great example of like you know just random chance, but like ransomware can hit anybody. And
Hmm.
like how big of an organization do you have to be to have anything resembling a mature security apparatus? Right?
Yeah.
Like how if just general statistics, right? 5 to 20% of your revenue is IT and 5 to 20% of that is security. So how big
Yep.
do you have to be where to have one full-time security guy?
Yeah.
Right?
You've got to
It's
be
large, right? And
really
everybody else is
large.
just trying to keep the lights on. Like how many
Yep.
organizations have you been to where not forget security maturity, you would
Oh
even
yeah.
call IT ops mature?
Yeah, there's not, I would say very few.
Very
Very
few,
few. Anything that doesn't have a Fortune 500, pretty much doesn't, at least in my experience, hasn't really had anything that I would consider a base program where I would
right?
walk in and go, okay, cool. Who's this guy? And they're like, oh, well, this guy does networking. He does security.
Right,
He does all of our offensive security. He does all of our operations. I was like, okay, well, who else? And they're like, oh no, that's just Jim's job. Jim does all of that.
right,
Um, and you go to Jim and Jim's like, look, man, I don't have time to write down anything. Whatever you need, I'm happy to help you. But like I'm doing 8 people's jobs and I'm wearing 10 different hats, right?
right.
Um,
Right. And who like
that's
whose fault is it, right? Like it's like this is why I do what I do, and this is what I get out of it. It's like these are people who are they're not it's when you can go in and be like, you made a mistake, and you can look somebody in the face and be like, you did this.
yeah, very very
It's
rare.
totally different
Yeah.
than that you are a victim of just terrible circumstance. And
And
so
you were
I
not
try to help.
educated at all, right? Like
Right. The industry
as
failed, right? You
100%.
bought the
Yeah.
products, right? You bought whatever, the
Whatever
sensor,
it is. Yeah,
bought
yeah.
the firewall. I read a thing the other day. A couple of insurance companies got together and they're like, if you have a Cisco ASA, you're between 5 and 11 times more likely to file a claim, a business interruption claim.
Interesting.
And if you have a next gen firewall at all, you're 4 to 6 times more likely to file a business interruption claim. And I'm like, surely the analysis you're not trying to drive here is people shouldn't buy firewalls,
Right. That sure
right?
felt what it
Like
sounds like.
the industry has just, it's because people buy those firewalls and they don't use them correctly.
They buy them to pass an audit check, right? Like
Right.
that's what I've seen at most of the companies that I've gone into to assist in the past. They bought it to pass audit. They're like, we needed this to pass
Right.
audit. And
Right.
it's a
Right. I bought a
checkbox.
firewall. And I can't tell you how many times I go in and it's the firewall's in the default configuration.
Default. Every time, buddy.
Any outbound, it's done. Right. I had one client, the only thing they blocked was a RuneScape website because a secretary couldn't do their work. They were too busy looking at RuneScape. And I'm just like, you totally missed the point of why do you even have the firewall? Go buy $100
I,
Cisco Linksys at Best
I
Buy and be done with it. Like,
I remember
connect.
I was at a hospital with my girlfriend in like the early 2000s, and I couldn't get to the GameFAQs website and it annoyed me. So I broke into their firewall, which was using a default username and password, and I unlocked the filter, and then I redid their network. I added protection. I gave them a new username and password that wasn't default. And then I walked over as we were leaving and I was like, hey, your security admin's gonna freak out. Just go ahead and give him this. Um, when he can't get into the network, I'm happy to help out. But like you can't just leave this as a default configuration. Like I was
Yeah,
able to figure it out. I was like 16 at the time. Like you can't just do this. But it happens, right? People did that for the longest time, and now we've gotten away from default router passwords for the most part in consumer products, but we still do it in enterprise products, where, in my personal opinion, it's much more dangerous to have an appliance configured in a default configuration than it is to my home router, where somebody
sure,
might, get access to my print server or something equally as stupid. Um,
sure.
Th-
Well,
but
that's and
but
now
they do it.
take that to everything, right? Because I'll be
Yeah.
honest, this is the critical fail that I see in ransomware. And when we go down, when we sit down, because like my organization doesn't do analysis, we don't do the forensic investigation, we don't
Yeah.
determine root cause. Like there's somebody else who does
You
that.
stop the bleed.
We're here to stop the bleed. Yeah, that's exactly it. We're here to stop the bleed. Like you're not
Yep.
making money. You're going to have we know that business interruption is going to be the most expensive part of this whole mess. We're
Yep.
here to push that cost down. We want to put you back on the map, make money. But like the fundamental failings are not, oh, you didn't patch that piece of software that has that critical vulnerability. It's like fundamental architectural things. Like,
Yep.
why can I get to Veeam from the secretary's desk? Like, why
Ugh.
is it even possible to get there from there? Like, there's
Yeah.
no east-west traffic control at all. You bought that expensive firewall and you didn't configure it
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. And
Like,
it's just star dot star for
right. And
everything.
it's like just architectural things that are just critical fall downs. And it's
Yep.
because the people who learn this in a security, and this is, I mean, we'll get back to the education thing, but like we go through the security education, we talk about like, you have VLANs and you want to break stuff up and you want to use
Yep.
rotate passwords and hygiene and policies and procedure and all this. And we teach all this stuff and we don't teach it to the overall majority of people who are designing and operating environments. We teach it to this niche of security folks who are all competing for jobs that only exist at large organizations, and everybody who's not a large organization just gets forgotten by the wayside. And then
Yeah.
unfortunately, I see those people on a daily basis because somebody clicked on a link. Like somebody's always going to click on a link. That's not
Yep.
go. I don't know who lied to you and told you that you can stop phishing. It's not going away,
No, no, no.
right?
And like that was one of the things that I did that was kind of different than I think a lot of anti-phishing programs is when I built the one previously that we had is I looked and I wanted high click-through numbers. I wanted to see like a 10% consistently. I wanted to see at least 10% of the people targeted were clicking because then I knew that I was educating them. When I
Right.
started to see that number go down, like to the 2, 3%, I would up the difficulty of the attack.
Right. Because everybody else
Um,
is going to take that as success, right?
they
I use
do.
a key
Yeah,
point.
and I
Like
take it as I
999
take
is a losing average,
yep, and I take it as complacency.
right?
And that to me was a hard thing to sell, right? And it was something that I was like, you need to understand that majority of these people we are emailing will never get emailed by an attacker.
Right.
Period. Like, so our numbers don't matter. What matters is the habits that you teach in the education and kind of the way you kind of grow that maturity. But it's never going to be perfect. That's why defense in depth exists, right?
Right, 100%. And that's what I spend time talking to customers about. It's not like, oh, you need a vulnerability management program. Like, yes, you could use a vulnerability management program. That
Right.
would be great. But like, all I want you to do is so much more simple than that, right? I just want you to have very practical control. Like, don't use your domain admin to administer workstations. Like, just don't do it,
Right,
right?
right.
you know,
Yeah,
they're like, well, what do I use then? Like you create a new class of admin and you
yeah,
set it. It doesn't take that much time. I know no one has ever shown you this, right? But like,
yeah.
here's how you do this. And this is how we prevent this from happening again. And you could go so much further than this too, because like identity is cornerstone of ransomware events.
I mean,
Everything is about identity,
it's basically become our new perimeter, right?
right?
I
And
mean,
that, and I'll
so
go. So we did
yeah,
the,
yeah,
like Microsoft has this thing, the tiered identity model, right? And you're like, oh, domain is tier 0, and yeah, but
yeah,
critical infrastructure, whatever. And like I just tell people like there's some stuff that doesn't belong in your domain. Period. Full stop.
yeah.
Like take your
No.
backups out of the domain. Period. Just take them away.
Please,
Write
please.
the password. Use a local native password. Write it on a piece of paper and put it in a safe.
Yep, that's the best security, man. That's exactly what I tell people to do
And
too.
it sounds
And
super counterintuitive, but like
no, we got to
it's
bring it
because
back.
that's what we're
Like,
dealing with now. Like this is the threat landscape has evolved, and our education, our highbrow education about how to manage, yes, properly implemented, a well orchestrated
yeah,
and designed identity management platform will mitigate a lot, but none of you have a well-designed identity management platform.
it's
So
it's
stop putting everything in Active Directory. Until you
yeah.
do, you're not allowed to put that in Active Directory anymore.
Well,
Like
I mean, let's look at this. I mean, what are these like what is some advice that you have for kids who are looking to because everybody wants to do incident response or they want to hack, right? Those are the two jobs that people want in security. And I tell people, no. Like these are the most competitive possible fields and the highest rate of burnout for any cyber job is both of
I
those two
I
gigs.
agree, and I also think they're the least impactful. No offense,
No, I'm right there with you.
but
No,
I
I
don't
agree with you.
like as cool as those jobs are, they're not doing anything for the industry. One in a million people is gonna be the person who finds like the one super flaw,
Yeah.
right? And that's great, and somebody needs to do that. But like that's not at least to me, that's boring to aspire to.
No,
Right?
I
Like
would
I
agree.
can help 1,000 people by learning how to orchestrate environments well. I learned
That
how attacks happen. I learned how
architecture,
to
man. I
fall
tell people
down.
architecture or go into even just understanding the basics and core fundamentals of troubleshooting, I
Yeah,
feel is lost. Like how many people have you interviewed who couldn't problem solve without
so so many,
tools?
so
Yeah.
many. It's in an interview, I will show preference to a person who I get the idea that their brain works in a certain way, even
Yeah.
if they have no skills,
Same.
because I know that
100%.
they can learn it. And in some
It's
ways, it's actually easier. Don't bring me your baggage and all of the bad things that you've already learned and ingrained in yourself. Just give me a clean slate to work with. And sometimes, some ways, I'd rather work with that.
no, I would agree. And the thing that I think kills a lot of people, and I'll say this here, is if you don't know it, you better be damn clear that you don't know it.
Right.
Right?
I love that.
Don't try to like make up some stuff. You're talking to a lot of these people. Like I had somebody try to like talk over my head, and I'm like, did you assume because I have a director title, I'm not also a professional hacker? Like what you just said literally makes no sense. I said I'm going to end the interview now because you've now lost my trust. I can no
Right.
longer like this is a black and white field. Like you either know it or you don't. And the most important question that you can answer in an interview is what you don't know. It just instantly.
Right.
I do not
I
know
tell
that.
people,
Yeah.
so I have, when we do interviews, I have the tech side of the interview. I'm typically paired with somebody from management who has more of the admin philosophy,
Yeah.
bureaucracy side of the interview. And then it's like, okay, just grill it. And so I'll start asking questions. And if I get the sense that you're a know-it-all type of candidate, I will continue to ask questions until you become
Until
a
you
no,
break.
right?
Yep.
Like I will start Googling obscure terminology. I'll start Googling, and I will just hit you with it over and over and over until I will make you admit that you don't know.
Because how you answer when you don't know is more important than how you answer the questions you do
And
know.
that tells me everything about you
It
as a
does.
candidate, right?
It
It's I
does.
let people it's fine to not know. There are plenty of things that I don't reserve space in my brain for that Google can
No,
do.
totally.
That's fine. But knowing how to get the information and how to go about it and more about your process and how you think about problems and break down problems, that's so much more important than specific technical skills. You know how to hack into a insert, unify wireless kit, right?
Yep.
Cool. Like I didn't know how to do it until recently. I
Right.
I knew the principle of like it's probably stored in a database somewhere. I can go find it. And it turns out it's
Sure.
MongoDB and it's bcrypt hash and you can go in and overwrite the hash and write yourself a new admin password. Turns out that works just fine. I know enough about it procedurally that if I need to do that on 10 different vendors, I can do that on 10 different vendors. I didn't learn the skill set, I learned the process. And that's what I
That's the
try to
key.
get people is because that applies to everything. I had a client not that long ago that they walked out of sysad. It wasn't a ransomware client, but they walked out of sysad and he deleted everybody else's admin accounts on the way out the door.
Oh God. Yeah, it
So
happens. Well,
everything was up, but they were locked out of everything. And they're like, you guys, the defer called us because the defer was like, okay, we're going to have to prove that he did it. And we need some log data and stuff. And
oh
there's going
yeah.
to be a legal process.
No, it becomes real nasty. Well,
But they
man,
called us and said, can you help? And I was like, well, I've never used any of these systems that they have
but we'll
before, but
figure it
sure,
out.
let's figure it. It took 5 days and we gave them back everything. Not,
Yeah,
did not
man.
a single, not a single minute of downtime.
Well, man, I appreciate your time. We've actually already hit 40 minutes. We knocked this out really quick. I knew we would. I knew we would just kind of get on tangent. I don't even know what we said. Hopefully, it was useful to someone. I truly appreciate your time. What I really want new people to understand is we don't want you to know everything. We want you to know how to figure it out. Like that
Sure.
is so, so important is understanding the network, understanding how things talk to each other. Because especially in an incident response situation, you're going to be working with tools and systems you've never even heard of, and you need to become an expert to suite, and you got to figure it out on the fly. But
Yep.
no, man, I appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you so much for your time, brother. Have a good
Absolutely.
one and
Hey, I just
enjoy.
want to say,
Yeah,
uh, I think what you're doing here is super important. The
thank you.
candid conversation, the inside look, just get two people together in a room and talk about it. Like I learn more listening to some of your, I don't want to call it an interview, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Listening to some of these conversations, I learn more and I appreciate more and I put more together just by having an opportunity to
Hell
share
yeah.